What's the opposite of love? If you ask Eobard Thawne, it's not hate, it's obsession. This is the story of a man whose hero worship became so absolute, so all-consuming, that the moment he learned he was destined to be his hero's greatest enemy, that love curdled into a timeline-shattering hatred. This is how the Flash's biggest fan became his most personal nemesis, the Reverse Flash. It's a tragedy written across centuries, a paradox of poison that proves the most dangerous enemy isn't someone who despises you, but someone who wanted more than anything to be you. Our story starts, not in our time, but way, way in the future, the 25th century. In this era, the age of heroes is ancient history. And for a brilliant, but deeply troubled scientist named Eobard Thawne, one legend stood above all others: the Flash. Thawne wasn't just a fan, he was a scholar, a devotee of the Scarlet Speedster. He memorized every recorded battle, studied every feat, and obsessed over every piece of data on Barry Allen. This toxic fandom went so far that Thawne, already a rich man, even got cosmetic surgery to look just like his idol, Barry Allen. This obsession became his life's work. His big break came when a time capsule from our century was unearthed. Inside was the ultimate prize, one of Barry Allen's Flash costumes, still humming with residual Speed Force energy. For a genius like Thawne, this was the key. He reverse-engineered the accident that gave Barry his powers. A flash of lightning, a spray of chemicals, and Eobard Thawne was reborn. He'd done it. He had the speed of his hero. He was a Flash. The only problem, the 25th century, was a peaceful utopia. So Thawne started creating disasters just so he could swoop in and save people, all to live out the heroism he worshipped. With the power secured, only one thing was left: to meet the man himself. Using his new speed, Thawne built a cosmic treadmill and took his first fateful trip through time. Imagine the pure adrenaline. Eobard Thawne, the Flash of the 25th century, hurtling through time to meet his hero. He pictures being a partner, a sidekick, a friend. But Thawne's math was a little off. He didn't land in Barry's prime. He arrived years after Barry's heroic death during the Crisis on Infinite Earths, a time when Wally West was the Flash, lost and confused. Thawne did the only thing a superfan could do. He ran to the Flash Museum. And it was there, surrounded by the history of the man he idolized, that his world didn't just break. It shattered. He frantically searched the archives for himself. For his own name, in his hero's story, he found it. Not in the Hall of Allies, but in the Gallery of Villains. There, on a cold, stark display, was the history of the Flash's most hated enemy. A villain so personal and so vile that Barry Allen was eventually forced to break his one rule and kill him. The exhibit profiled a man known as Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. As Thawne stared into the face of this monster, he saw his own. The museum's records were clear. He, Eobard Thawne, was destined to become the arch-nemesis of the very man he had reshaped his life to honor. In that one horrifying moment, his sanity snapped. The fanatical love he felt for Barry Allen didn't just fade. It inverted, twisting into an equally fanatical, all-consuming hatred. His life's purpose was a lie, a path that led not to being a hero, but to infamy and death at his idol's hand. He was no longer a fan, he was the reverse. This is the core of the Reverse Flash's tragedy. His hatred isn't about ideology or a simple lust for power. It's the rage of a spurned admirer, the psychological torment of a man who feels betrayed by destiny itself. Think about that paradox for a second. To become the person you were meant to be, you have to become the opposite of everything you ever wanted. Thawne's villainy is a desperate, insane rebellion against his own pre-written history. If the timeline says he's the villain, then he'll be the greatest, most terrifying villain the world has ever seen. His first psychotic break actually led him to believe he was Barry Allen. And he attacked Central City for forgetting him, before Wally West defeated him. But as his true memories flooded back, his purpose became singular and sharp. Ruin Barry Allen. If he was destined to be the rival, he would prove he was the better Flash by systematically tearing the original's life apart. This wasn't about winning a fight. It was about erasing Barry's legacy, hurting his loved ones, and turning every triumph into ash. He became a living paradox, a man whose entire existence is a monument to his hatred for another. In his own words, He is the reverse of everything Barry is. If Flash saves people, Reverse Flash must kill them. If Flash inspires hope, Reverse Flash must sow despair. It's a cosmic tantrum thrown across all of space-time. This deep psychological wound is what makes the Reverse Flash so compelling. It's not just a bad guy. He's a broken man lashing out at the universe. If you're fascinated by the twisted origins of comic book villains, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more lore breakdowns like this. Let's get back to how this broken man became a timeline-breaking monster. Thawne's war on Barry didn't start with epic, timeline-shattering schemes. It started with pure pettiness. He was a bully with a time machine. Because he'd studied Barry's entire life, he could strike at him in ways no other villain could. He traveled back to Barry's childhood and pushed him down a flight of stairs. He burned down Barry's childhood house and made sure his dog ran out and was hit by a car. He even vibrated Barry's only childhood friend out of existence, just to make sure he'd grow up lonely. These were the actions of a man consumed by spite. Small cruelties designed to inject a lifetime of misery into Barry's world before he ever became the Flash. His obsession was so absolute that he'd even sabotage his own life for the sake of control. In one storyline, a reporter he liked didn't return his affection. In response, his future self went back in time and traumatized her as a child, ensuring his younger self would never even meet her and feel that rejection. This was the new Eobard Thawne, a man willing to burn his own past and future just to feel a sliver of power, a power he felt destiny had stolen from him. Every second of Barry's happiness was a personal insult, and he had all of time and space to make sure those seconds were few and far between. But petty torments weren't enough. Thawne needed to prove he was superior to create a power that was his and his alone. That obsession led to his ultimate masterpiece, the negative Speed Force. It was an artificial, parasitic energy he generated himself, a cancer that eats away at the true Speed Force, fueled by his own movement and his bottomless negative emotions. It was the perfect manifestation of his corrupted soul. It was his, and it allowed him to travel through time without being easily detected by other speedsters. Armed with this dark power, he planned his magnum opus of cruelty. He decided he would unjust ruin Barry Allen's life. He would stop it from ever truly starting. He ran back to the single moment that defined Barry more than any other, the night his mother, Nora Allen, was murdered. Originally, this was a random, tragic crime, but Thawne remade it. He became the man in the lightning, the yellow blur young Barry saw just before his world fell apart. He murdered Nora Allen, not just to hurt Barry, but to inflict a trauma so profound he hoped it would break the boy forever, preventing him from ever becoming the hero Thawne once worshipped. This one act cemented Thawne as the architect of his hero's greatest pain. That brings us to the final, twisted irony of Eobard Thawne. He cannot exist without Barry Allen. His powers, his knowledge, his very reason for being the Reverse Flash, it all hinges on the Flash's legacy. If he ever actually succeeded in killing Barry before he becomes the Flash, Thawne himself would be erased from existence. He is trapped in a feedback loop of his own making, a snake eating its own tail for all eternity. He can't kill his nemesis, so he dedicates his entire being to tormenting him instead. Eobard Thawne is the perfect villain for Barry Allen because he is a dark mirror. Barry is a man constantly trying to move forward from his past, while Thawne is a man from the future who is pathologically obsessed with destroying that past. He's a living, breathing paradox, a constant reminder that for every force of creation, there is an equal and opposite force of destruction. His hatred isn't just an emotion. It's a fundamental law of his universe, a negative energy that gives his life its twisted, horrifying purpose. He will never stop because for a man who learned he was destined to be the villain, the only time he feels truly alive is when he's making his hero wish he were dead. The eternal rivalry between Flash and Reverse Flash is one of the most compelling in all of comics. But what do you think? Who is the greatest hero-villain duo in fiction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into the psychology of a supervillain, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories from across the comic book universe. Thanks for watching.